Welcome back to another Alliance War video. We have 4 Loki versus Iso8A, and they banned Future Ant-Man, Ghost, and Kingpin, as well as Nimrod and iDoom are globally banned. So this is the 3rd war of this season, and we're looking to shake off some major rust. I have White Magneto, Torch, and Professor X on my team. I have a short war, and I had an open slot because I was going to use Professor X here to get a full 4-charge ramp or bring Omega Sentinel, but everything else was covered, so I opted for Torch. Basically, I can't use or I shouldn't be using a power back with Chavez, so I figured I'll just use Torch and kind of melt her. I'll go with a parry, medium, light, mediums just to build some incinerates and get some Nova Flames on her, and then drop a heavy to get the protection down. And at this point, just go ham. I have an Involve boost, so I prefer to push her to an SP2 if she does not throw a heavy attack. If she were to throw a heavy attack, then I would just actually keep pushing her to a special 3 and tank that. But here I drop one more heavy, and she actually goes down from the Nova Flames in itself. She throws that SP2. It's not unblockable because none of her dimensions were up, so no harm, no foul. Super quick and easy fight. Next up, I have a spot on the heavy unstoppable node, and this is just a Professor X fight. I am running my mutant boost now because I will be going using them from here on out. But this is a fight that I had to inherently tell myself to not beta heavy. Against Spot, I've taken tons of Spot bosses, and I just always beta heavy because the boss is stun immune, or if Spot throws random heavies, you can get an easy heavy charge ramp for Professor X. On heavy unstoppable, I don't want to do that. So here I just want to make sure that I parry and heavy, and then bait some specials and then retaliate after the first hit. And I started with the power start 1. I'm not taking any chances this war. I want to make sure that I get in and out of these fights. And of course I mistimed the dex and I take that to the face, but ultimately it feeds me power, so I'll take that. And at this point I need one more heavy charge. I had a falter. He was under a bar of power and the heavy was up, so the protection was down, the fury was up, so I figured I'll just throw this and the fight will be over. Just in and out of the fight as easy as possible. Next up, I have a Weapon X, and you see that I have a White Magneto, I have Professor X, and I have Human Torch. I could take the Weapon X with White Magneto, and I thought about it. With power back boost, he actually will do significant damage, and if I get clipped, I won't be bled, but it's just much easier to heavy or SP3 spam. But the problem is that I can't use my falter for Weapon X because he'll go unstoppable per his kit. He'll get rage stacks, so I need to parry heavy as much as possible, use a power start 1, because I want to basically get fully ramped into an SP3, close or around, fully ramped for sure, but I want to get to meaning 200 charges. I want to be right at that precipice to where I can trigger rage and then wait out his unstoppable, and then he'll give me easy access to intercepts, and if needed I'll basically manually trigger my mind control and then start my SP3 spam. I learned how to use Professor X a lot in the Abyss. This is where I really kind of learned how to refresh his prowess and his kit. It came in super helpful, but I threw him in the gauntlet, and I actually had a bunch of team revives, so I just threw him at the Weapon X in there. I was mutant boosted because I was using other mutants, and I soloed it. So I was like, oh wow, I can definitely use Professor X for a lot of different stuff. You see here, he's at 20. I get an intercept here, and then I realized I triggered his rage, and I was like, wait, my protection is down with the intercept. I'm at 100. I'm at red. I can just end this fight. So I'm just making sure that everything was in the up and up, and that's why you see me kind of dash away. But I throw this, and he is in berserk mode, but it doesn't matter. He's regenning right there, but he's not going to out regen my SP3 damage ultimately. And next up is Kindred, and it's a Mighty Charge and Intercept node. And the reason I debated on using X for Chavez is actually because I was doing the math on whether my power back boost would work with the protection down, because with Mystics, with Mystic Dispersion, it can get kind of tricky to get them to dump their power and then do a backdraft intercept to get it off. With Professor X, you can use your falter for the intercept with a heavy. I just kind of like to play it how I feel it. So sometimes I won't use the heavy to falter and intercept. Sometimes I'll just do an intercept if it's there. But ultimately, the plan here, I have White Magneto pre-fight, is to parry heavy and hold heavy as long as the long stun allows, to really ramp up as fast as possible. I'm using Power Start 1, and I'm trying to look at my Nightmare charges. The less hits I take, the heavy's not going to give him one. So here I decide not to pause it because I'm only at 6-7 charges, and I'll take it on the block, and everything's moving fine. If he happens to throw a heavy, I'm just going to dash away and then heavy counter to get more ramp. So here I'm at 13. I'm like, okay, I just need to get an intercept off, and this fight is basically over. So I want him to dump his power here. This is perfectly lined up because I can pause this. Boom, 1, 2, 3. I dash back, and he dashes away at me instead of. So I'm like, okay, now I'm like, I use a falter. I don't get an intercept there, and I'm like, oh my god, like at this point, this fight has gone on 20 seconds longer than it should have, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back here and try to get a backdraft. And then I eat this. I thought it was a heavy, and I'm like, oh my god. So then I'm remembering, and I try another falter intercept right there, and I'm like, just throw this, because I remembered KT1's video where he ate a couple SB1s and he ultimately died. So I spend a bunch of time basically trying to get the protection down, and per the math, I didn't need to, because I know I can do significant amount of damage to get enough power to SB3 spam, and you'll see me, if the Fury was up, I would basically have killed him with this special attack right here. Instead, it takes another one right here, and one more, I believe, after, on top of the last one, because once he goes to 1% or 5%, whatever have you, yeah, see right here, I have to throw another one. So sorry, so it's just the last one. So I actually wasn't sure if this would work. I tried it in theory and it seemed like it worked, but I wasn't mutant boosted. And so the reason I took Professor X to Kindred on this node is to know if I can take him on the boss. If this was a boss node, it would have been much easier. I wouldn't have to wait for the intercept. But ultimately, he goes down. That's my war. Yay, I didn't die. First 2 wars I did. And they were up by 1 death, and then they died to the boss. They're down by, they have a 53-second window here to clear this Sassy. It's R2 Sassy, and there's like hope that we can win. And the final score, if we look at here, they did end up winning. They threw AA at him, and they melted the rest of that Sassy, 150k in 31 seconds. So GG's to them. That's a great call. They had a couple R2 Titanias that they could have used, but shout out to Karate Mike, Lags, and Trevor for the MVPs. And this is now our 2nd loss in the season, but we are doing better, getting the rust off, and that's what's important. We will see you guys in the next one.